So Lily and I are at Volcan de Acatenango and we are preparing to hike it today. So we're at this office where we can rent jackets and backpacks as well as walking sticks. And we're in a group of 6 and there's these cute little dogs. This one keeps jumping up and like, oh my heart. So right now we're layering up. I currently have 5 layers of sweaters or tops and then like 2 layers of pants, 3 pairs of socks on. Lily, what do you have going on?
I have just my base layer and then a wool sweater, and then I'm packing another sweater and a jacket in the backpack that we're gonna use to hike.
So we actually had originally booked this tour with Acatenango Balam Tours on Viator, but I decided to reach out to them because we didn't get like reservation confirmation closer to the date of our tour. So yesterday we didn't hear back from them. And after asking around, we had heard that, the tour guide is kind of like hard to reach, like you have to keep calling him and messaging him. And then when we finally got a hold of him, we found out it was because he wasn't operating tours and he hasn't been since March 2020. His listing is still on Viator, but he said that he shut down his like website and he shut down his email, so he's not checking it, and his Facebook is opened, but he's like unsure about whether to keep that open because people keep booking tours and he's not currently operating. And so in talking with him and kind of trying to work out our situation, since this was like yesterday at like 11 or noon, he gave us several different options for tours to come to Acatenango, and we decided to go with Soy, which has been a really great choice with how considerate they've been and how well everything is planned out and the tents are, as well as the food. The food has been really like rich and fulfilling. It's like a little lunch box, at least that's what lunch was like, and it was like rice and chicken, and it had fruit too, so there was a banana and bread. And for other groups, we had research online that they only really provided like sandwiches, which like weren't filling, or like burritos. And so we're really happy with having chosen Soy Tours. And in saying that, I would recommend that if you're traveling to Guatemala, from our experience here, it's been better and easier to kind of book when you're here. So a lot of the times, like, I would usually like to have activities or tours booked in advance just so that I know what I'm doing, and I can get the details and like plan my days around that. But at least from our experience in Guatemala, it seems that it's the best, maybe because of COVID. So we're unsure of like which tours are still operating or what places are open or what places have closed due to the pandemic. It's better to just like arrive and then especially if you're staying in Antigua, there's so many travel agencies and tour groups to book with them like in person, just to confirm the details and just so that the process is, seamless. Over the past couple of days, we haven't really had time to vlog because our days have just been jam-packed. Like in the morning, we'll do all these different activities that we can get in, and then in the afternoon we have our classes, and then we have homework. I accompanied Lily 2 days ago to her weaving class, which was in San Antonio, Aguas Caliente, and that was really special, I think, because I learned how to make a bracelet, but it was also really peaceful to just be in this like hillside town or museum, and the background was like a church bell and like a church sermon going on, and just the town was just so serene, and it's kind of like I could see how people spend hours weaving or hours just like working on like a craft or an art, and that's not something that I've ever partaken in. So I think that was really special, and it's honestly not something I would have thought to do here or just in general, to take like a textile or a weaving class. So I'm glad that Lily kind of like convinced me to join her to see the museum, and then once I was there, I was offered like a $10 bracelet making class. And then yesterday we did a cooking class at La Tortilla Cooking School in Antigua, and we actually had a little bit of trouble finding the location because we had researched 2 different cooking schools. We were scared that like it was closed because there wasn't a lot of online like recent activity. So we like walked to one of the locations, and they had moved, and so finally I think one of the cooking schools isn't operating anymore, or isn't currently operating, but La Tortilla was. And so we made some dishes that we had learned about the previous day, because as part of our classes we had like a little cultural activity of learning about like Dia de los Muertos and like the altar and the food, and just like, what happens when you celebrate in November. And so that was cool to actually make like rellenitos ourselves after we had just learned about it and tried our teacher's rellenitos. And then we also made pepien, which is like a Guatemalan traditional dish, and then of course like a salad as well as rice with carrots. But it was just so nice to like prepare such rich food ourselves, and it actually lasted for 2 meals. So it was like our breakfast, because our class started at like 7 a.m. and then it was our dinner. So that was like one of the first days that we didn't really eat out. Food is such an important part of most cultures. How people get introduced to different cultures is through food, and maybe media a little bit, famous people. Food definitely an important entryway. So it was cool to like not only learn about it but then also make it ourselves.
We just made it to the campsite, and we're chilling by the fire because it is a bit cold up here, and it is only going to get colder tonight. But we hiked for about, I want to say 6 hours. We're the slowest in the group, and with our guide helping us carry our backpack, partly because I think we've like hiked before and we've hiked different difficulties, but we've never like had to strap on a backpack and carry everything we needed for the next 2 days. So it's like, it really is every ounce counts, because once you start hiking it just gets heavier,
especially with like the incline.
Yes.
How steep it gets.
Yeah, so like the first leg of the hike was like really steep, and then we kind of zigzagged where it was like steep and then it leveled out, zigzagged, and then it's steep again. And then the last leg of it was
rocky,
but a bit steep at first, but then it leveled out
because it was like loose dirt.
Yeah, it was loose volcanic sand. And if you look over there, you can see Mount Fuego erupting,
as well as our tents.
This hike is probably the most intense hike I've done, but once we've made it to the top, I'm so glad we've done it, because the volcano erupt every 20 minutes, or hearing it erupt every 20 minutes is just like a crazy experience. I mean, I've been on hikes where like you're in the clouds, but I don't necessarily think I could say I've been on a hike where you're literally above the clouds, like almost as if when you look out, it's as if you're on an airplane looking out your window, and it's crazy. Like, I look forward to the hike tomorrow morning, although sounds very dangerous. It sounds a bit intimidating because we had to bring our own headlamp, and it's really steeper, and it's just loose gravel, loose sand, volcanic sand. So everyone's been saying like whole hike for tomorrow is going to be 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So it will be another challenge. But we are hiking to the summit tomorrow at 4:30 in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning to see the sunrise.
So like Lily said, this is probably one of the hardest hikes I've ever done. And I definitely was slowing everyone down. And our guide definitely felt bad for us. He probably carried my backpack for like 90% of the hike. And at one point he was carrying like 3 backpacks. It was like his, Lily's, and then mine. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I would be like, oh, I can get it back. But really in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to make it if I'm to carry like an additional 40 pounds. Because coming up, it's like really hot. But then, well, because like you're sweating and then, you know, the sun and stuff. But then up here it's cold. And so like I'm prone to getting cold. So I prepared a lot of layers. And so I had to put that in my backpack and try to attempt to walk. And it just, yeah, it was hard because of how heavy it was. And I definitely didn't train enough for this. So I'm glad that I did it, but I do feel bad for our guide, who is really great. His name is Rufino, and he's like really friendly and open to like talking. So because we lagged behind, I think I like learned a little bit more about him and asked him some questions, and he asked me some questions, which is nice because that's why I enjoy traveling, is to just like meet different people and hear about cultures from their perspective, from the local perspective, as well as hear about how they have lived their life and what their beliefs are and their cultural values. We're just, I guess, resting and waiting around for dinner. He said he was going to cook us pasta, potatoes, and beans.